Engie was originally a European-based utility, like a kind of local incumbent for France and Belgium, having some footprints in key markets like Brazil, in the US, in Thailand, and in the Middle East. Engie has also merged with International Power, so it has gained more footprints, but conceptually, it was still a European utility. Okay, so the first strategy, the first focus point was on Europe. The market in Europe as you know, integrated in terms of energy and gas. And so it was more or less centered around Europe first and then some footprints elsewhere. What has changed is a couple of things. First thing that she noticed, and it's not the basis of the strategy, is that we need to be closer to our clients. So utility is a local market. So you don't export electricity from Middle East, for example, to Europe, but it needs a global reach. Why a global reach? Because the investments in this business are huge for a very long term. You need to tap in the debt market, you need to go to see your shareholders, you need to raise equity, and that needs, of course, to have a global reach. The second global aspect of this market is the commodity or the commoditized, I would say, product in a way. So, for example, renewable is becoming commoditized now and is a global market. The panels are mostly, I would say, produced from China and commoditized and sold to be installed locally, but sold more or less at the same price everywhere. What is also commoditized, of course, the oil is commoditized, as you know perfectly well. What is also commoditized, I think, in a way, is the project finance or the structure of the public-private partnership, the PPP, that we often, I would say, use as a structure to combine or to align, I would say, the vision of our clients and the role of the private sector. It's what we have been doing here, but elsewhere too. So I think to come back to this idea of being more local, what the CEO and what Engie did 3 years back is basically to refocus the center of the governance locally. So now Engie has 24 business units which hold the P&L, and the P&L is held by these BU, which are mostly regional BU. So for example, here in Dubai, I am managing what I'm calling the Mescat BU. So it's Middle East, South and Central Asia and Turkey. It's basically the Middle East, India, and the country from India to Turkey and Turkey. In reality, we have businesses in the Middle East countries, in India, Pakistan, and Turkey. Okay? So that's the focus of interest, and I have some CEOs of colleagues that are managing APAC, China, Latin America, North America, Brazil, and so on and so forth. And of course, in Europe, we have also some BUs to distinguish South Europe, North Europe, and this kind of stuff. So that's the first change. And of course, here, it has enabled us to be closer to our clients. Closer to do what? I think market, even if it's local, is changing. Here, we have been one of the first, or the first IPP, and we're still, I would say, the leading one in terms of capacity, to have, I would say, found, I would say, this nice behavior or client, I would say, driven attitude to provide this PPP or this IPP type of partnership with our clients. Always developing ourselves, but taking a minority position when the plant either to produce water or to produce electricity was built. Now, with the arrival of renewables, and also with the fact that reverse osmosis for water is, I would say, more affordable and more efficient, there's a lot of change in the way that clients assessed, I would say, their grid coming forwards. Okay, so now their thinking is about more preservation of resources, it's about more efficiency, it's about decoupling, but water and power is about adding more renewables in the grid, adding more battery in the grid, adding more edging services for the grid, beefing up the grid, maybe more interconnection within the GCC, and so on and so forth. And this, of course, is palatable, but to provide solutions on a day-to-day basis, you have to be here. Once you call, you have to come up with your experts, you have to be present. And so this is very important. That's the first, I would say, element of change. The second one is the fact that we are convinced at Engie that the future will be, I would say, reflecting what the people at large think, which is before nobody cares about where the electrons, when I plug, I would say, my sockets, where does it come from? It comes from a coal, it comes from hydrogen, it comes from solar, it comes from oil, it comes from, nobody cares. Now people are caring a lot. So people are more environmental friendly, people take care about what is the carbon released by this type of production. And so the birth of renewable industry as such has emerged. And now you've seen the price of the solar, I would say, plants as a whole, solar modules plus the rest, has dropped significantly. The same also for wind, and maybe the same for hydrogen tomorrow. So there's a kind of revolution that started from the people at large that has been, I would say, embodied or incorporated by the industry to bring up, I would say, a new efficient way to produce at a cheaper cost. And now it's here. It's not the end of the road because it's more or less at the infancy, but it's the beginning, I think, of a new era where basically it becomes economical. I'm convinced that whatever strong the social revolution or the social wish around one trend is, it has to be economical at one point. But otherwise, the industry will not adopt it. So I think that the rates of adoption is increasing a lot. And we see it here with the launch of the new program 2030 in KSA, in UAE, also in Oman. We see it everywhere. We see it also in India, where basically they have huge ambition for renewable, 100 gigawatts by 2022. We see it in Pakistan. I see it everywhere in this region. And we see it, of course, in China. We see it in North America. We see it a lot everywhere. And so that's the second angle, which is for us, Engie, to take on board this renewable revolution. And renewable revolution is really to be assessed as renewable plus battery, so it will be sustainable only if and when the intermittent parts of renewable will be solved. So it can be solved by basically transforming, I would say, using hydrogen to store energy, using, I would say, CSP, using battery, using all sorts of either chemical or I would say more conventional way to store energy. So that's a revolution in per se. This revolution also means that we will have to change the grid, and that's very important. The third part of what she changed, apart from these two, is the fact that the clients will be more at the center of the system. So today, by and large, all the systems around the world are built around, I would say, large-scale plants, and then pipes for gas or grid for electricity that bring those, I would say, utility to the customers. Okay, this needs a lot of investment, huge investment, multi-billion investment, and it's still the way it is today. And for a lot of countries that need sheer additional load for electricity or water or gas to heat, it's still the case. Tomorrow, what we see is more decentralized way to produce energy. How to put, I would say, for example, rooftop solar in your house. Maybe your EV car can also be used as a battery. You can have mini hydro, mini storage, so you can also yourself save energy. So negawatts, so the fact not to consume energy is I would say, it's a virtual power plant in itself. It's a negative one, but it's a virtual power plant in itself. So I think all this and I would say the conscious behavior of the consumer that becomes prosumer in some cases will also, I would say, trigger another type of balance. It's all about centralized production, transmission that is also, I would say, quite centralized, and then trying to cope with the demand and the offer. And this is all what has been, I would say, the market about this utility, I would say mainly on power, but also on water. This is changing. Of course, it will not change everywhere at the same pace. It will be, I would say, a kind of ramp up, but it will come, and we are still, I would say, seeing it coming. When I say prosumer, I also include what you can hear here and there about community production, sharing of electricity, sharing of everything. In fact, it's what you see in what has been the case for flat, I would say, sharing that you can see on Airbnb. It's true for everything. So it's becoming also true for energy. It's very limited, but with the new digital tool, it can come up. I think based on that, not everything has changed. So the three have changed. What has not changed in our sector is the fact that it's local and global, but also local. So of course, you need to be present. What has not changed is that you still need a lot of investment. Okay, so even in the case you think, okay, it's all renewable plus battery, you still need a lot of investment. Okay, it's capital is intensive a lot. So this capex part is still remaining. So I do not see in the very short term, I would say, the prosumer part taking, I would say, the major part of the production or consumption. So I see a lot of capex intensive, and when you see the amounts at stake, there are a lot of studies worldwide that speak about that. It's multi-billions of dollars that are needed just to electrify, for example, India, to electrify other countries, to replace, I would say, the old way to produce electricity or to produce water, to upgrade the grid, to green the gas, for example, and this is multi-billion or trillion of dollars. So that will not change. What will not change also is the long-term part of our business. So we are long-term partners to region, to towns, to cities, to countries. This will not change. Okay? And what will not change also, just to finish with that, is the fact that because it's long-term, because it's capital intensive, we need to have partners. So it's basically intrinsically a business where you need partners. You need partners to build, an EPC partner, civil engineering company. You need partners to elaborate, I would say, your design. You need partners to source your equipment. You need partners to operate the plants. And you need partners, often here as a client, to align interest and to be able to sustain, to weather the crisis. So that's a nutshell, I would say, what has changed within Engie and what has not changed, of course. And so what has not changed is part of our DNA, to be close to our client, to be close to our partners, to be able to tackle, I would say, sophisticated issues around infrastructure, also to be in large and small enterprises to try to tune in and to optimize their consumption of utility. That has not changed. What has changed is the organization of Engie. What has changed is the client focus that we have. What has changed is more entrepreneurship spirit. What has changed is also, I would say, the big trend in renewable that pushed my CEO and Engie to sell a lot of his coal plants, and all the coal plants will be sold when it's possible. So this has changed.